Hello, and welcome to another episode of In My Experience with yours truly, Christine DeGinto. This podcast is a space where I speak from lived experience. The moments that shaped me, challenged me, and changed the way that I understand myself in the world. The awakenings, the breakdowns, the moments that cracked me open, asked me to stay present, be embodied, and be honest with myself. I share my stories not to persuade or define truth for anyone else, but to offer perspective, to explore the gray areas we don't often have language for, to slow things down and listen more closely to what's happening beneath the surface. You'll hear solo episodes where I reflect on my own initiations, spiritual gifts, and the systems that tried to define me. And conversations with guests who have walked strange, beautiful, and sometimes painful paths of their own and come back with wisdom to share with us. I invite you to take what resonates, leave the rest, and trust your own experience as valid. Thank you for being here. This is In My Experience. Hello. How are you? I hope you're doing well. Today I had a little bit of time to myself, which isn't normal, and I was scheduled to have a recording, but my guest got a flat tire, was not able to make it, so we're going to reschedule. But in that time, I decided to make a solo episode. So here you go. I'm going to share this with you now, and while you're listening, as you find that I started talking about something and then just trailed off, that's my ADHD. So at the end, I'm going to summarize a few things that I started to talk about and then just absolutely abandoned. Enjoy. Hey y'all. I had a recording scheduled, but my guest did not appear. I'm not sure what happened. I'm sure something. I'll find out later, I bet. But I was going to take this opportunity to just have a little solo episode recording because my daughter is with her dad and I had this time set up and I'm all ready to go sitting here. So why not? And I hope you have some things going on that you can find the way to shift through what comes your way to ultimately progress yourself. You know, doesn't bother me a bit that my guest did not appear. I know she has a tremendous amount of things going on in her life, and I can personally relate, which is why I reached out to her and invited her on as a guest because I'm so excited to hear her perspective, her experience, to share with all of you. You may not be aware. One topic very personal to me is the absolute circus that is family court, custody court, and the protection from abuse is what we call it in Pennsylvania. I'm sure it has multiple names all over the place, but essentially like the process for getting like a step above or similar to a restraining order, what it takes to qualify for that, and how people manipulate the system, especially in regard to custody court, to destabilize the opposing party, which is the mother of your children, usually. I'm not going to lie. I'm sure women do this too. But I don't know. It's seems to be typically when it's done by men and they're claiming instability mentally, they're claiming physical abuse, et cetera, et cetera. And not to say that it's not valid because women can absolutely abuse men, and it's silly to think otherwise. I would say that a lot of women get a pass For example, the reason that I can speak on this, you all don't know yet, but I have had two PFAs filed against me by my ex-husband. Coincidentally, because he knew that divorce was looming. Um, and the second one that he did was in retaliation to an investigation. So it really was very clear to me that it was just to get the upper hand. And he had quite a lot of liberty in doing so. I was forcefully evicted from my home by the police uh, twice, told that I was not able to be in my own house. So then I'm homeless, right? I was never actually homeless like on the street. I always have, very luckily, very thankfully, people who looked out for me and are that I'm connected with that recognized recognized the need that I had at that time and supported me, like my parents and my friend and her family. So very thankful for that. But legally homeless. Okay, well, because I worked in business with him for 6 years, I didn't have my own financial stream of income. I worked for that business. So then when I'm legally not allowed to be anywhere near him, how could I possibly work? Right. So then there's loss of income. And with all of these court dates going on, because they're all over the place, and the favorite tactic, the flavor of my situation was constant continuation, meaning right before the court hearing, sometimes even the day of, it's like physically there at court. It's like, nope, it's going to be continued. You have to come back. What fuckery. Okay. So it's all done intentionally for psychological abuse, emotional abuse, financial abuse. I think it's abuse of the law. I was saying legal abuse. People are looking at me like I have fucking three heads because they don't even know what I'm talking about. And I'm like, no, I'm being abused by the law. Like, it's like, I can't, like, the law is supporting this person in destabilizing me, taking my kids from me and my animals and plants, which I also consider like my children. You're getting to know me, but you may not know that I have a very, very strong connection with plants and animals, as well as humans. I care very deeply. I consider everything as a living being, and I put quite a lot of energy and intention into living things. That gives me life. I think it's because I'm a human with a soul. I don't think I'm special, but I do think that I have an extra special connection with things. And the reason that I say this is because I've also been excluded from my home. And it's not just like a place that I live, it's not just a house. It was also my dream that I was trying to build a sanctuary um, for healing, for my own healing, for my family's healing, and for other people's healing as a business, but not for money. I knew that money would come in the form of help from other people. It doesn't have to be an exchange of currency. It's energy, an exchange of energy. I wanted to build a safe space to allow time in nature, especially centered around children. I wanted to homeschool my daughter and put a fence up and protect our dogs who would frequently run into the woods and get Lyme's disease, et cetera, et cetera. There are coyotes, whatever. They're getting older. I just wanted to give them like space. Okay. I had two collies and they need work. They were, barking all the time and trying to do like they needed work. They needed something to do. So I was like, well, let's build a homestead. I want to put up a big garden fence and build raised beds and also have like the land, tilled and processed. Not that sounds fucking horrible. What I mean, the opposite of it, but peeling up the grass, rejuvenating the soil naturally, organically, and intending on growing plants um, for food and medicine. So that was my dream. I wanted chickens and honeybees, which I also had there. So just to put it into like some context for you, why I believe things were done intentionally to psychologically harm me is because what the actual fuck? Like there's no explanation for it, right? So this is kind of random and off the cuff, but I just also have to mention it because it came to me the other day and I was like, wow, what a blatant example of like, fuck you. And that was done on purpose. But I I went away a couple of years ago when I was at the house. I was living there after I was went through this process that I just described. It happened twice, like I said. I went through the process, and from what I saw in the court system, there was no escape. I had no support. I couldn't really fight it. I needed to just accept, like it wasn't a square entry point where we were coming in on equal footing. I was coming in as a criminal who had to defend myself, who was looking crazy. Um, it was like total disrespect of of me, myself, my whole being, everything I stand for and who I am in my soul. So very difficult to deal with. So then I was like, well, I want to fix things truly. I want to make it better. Part of the process of the first PFA, I filed for divorce after he filed a PFA. And then, that was my leverage, but I actually wanted a divorce. I've been saying it for a year and a half prior to that. BT dubs. But actually filed for divorce finally because I was not trying to. I was really trying to like work together and mediate things, but like not possible. So filed for divorce. Then I had leverage, as fucked up as that is. And he says, okay, I'll drop the PFA if you drop the divorce. Okay. So I did that through the lawyers. And one of the requirements was going to therapy, which we subsequently did. It's like they in Pennsylvania specifically, this is what my experience is. They don't want people to get divorced. It takes quite a period of time after you file is required to like make sure, and you're supposed to like do therapy and like, I mean, it sounds good until you're like in a situation where you're like, yeah, I absolutely need a divorce right now. And the process of getting divorced is getting interfered with and fucked with and delayed. And it's hurting me. I'm being abused by this person and I want to sever ties from them. That's where it's a problem. Okay. So you might think in a normal, I don't know what normal is, but in a normal relationship where two people say, okay, we're no longer going to be together. Let's do this rationally, which is what I was trying to do. I wanted to buy a townhouse or rent an apartment so that we, as the parents, would be moving back and forth, and our kids didn't have to move or be split or have major changes. That was not possible. I wanted to have the house to build the homestead because that makes sense. I also have the capabilities of doing that. Like I know how to run equipment and I have my own knowledge. I've invested in many, many resources like to be able to plan out this garden. I was very, very detailed and I had a system for everything. The irrigation, it was going to be as natural as possible. And the whole loop closed itself with the chickens and composting and having everything really as natural as possible. Especially after my awakening, what I realized was that is the only thing that matters to me is that I become more aware, gracious, like have gratitude for, and then embodied. The gifts of nature and the gift that it is to be a human being on earth, especially right now. We are fucking magic and we can do anything. We just have to look to nature. She knows. Okay, so don't want to be like you you may not know me. I just want to say you if you want to get to know me, you will have to understand I am all over the place. My mind, I'm ungrounded, as you say, right? It's my I channel all kinds of things. I let things get picked up and I let things get put down. Sometimes my mind just gets like wiped in the middle of what I'm talking about. I'm crazy. It's fun. I hope you're here for it. Um, so back to the real serious conversation of like I wanted to build this space. We had everything necessary. Let me remind you, we ran a landscaping business. So we had access to dump trucks and equipment like skid steers and backhoes, and we had everything necessary to do this and all of the materials. Not a single day did he contribute to anything. He would also restrict my access to equipment, like take it. If he got mad at me, he would take the skid steer that I was working with, and then I would have to do it by hand because I'm a toxic lover. I'm an Aquarius sun, Aries moon, Gemini rising, projector. So, period. Take from that what you want. I will get what I want, and what I want is for fucking everyone. Okay. It's not ever a selfish motive unless it's self care. Cause it's like I've also understood after going through so many years of emotional neglect and um, psychological abuse, just some financial insecurity from someone who I did the opposite. Like I built his business with him. I taught him and helped him gain financial security. I had a credit score of 805 when I was 33, and it was completely decimated over 4 years because my obligations, my financial obligations, the credit in my name is what I used to pay for everything for my family. I bought everything, even pants, even jeans. Like my ex could not even buy his own jeans in his own size for some reason. And that's another thing I feel like is on purpose. It's like, oh, I need you to do everything. And then I become so busy, so overwhelmed that I am now blind to the external world. I'm so burdened by all of the things that I have to do. And if I go to get my hair cut once a year, guaranteed 30 minutes in, I get a phone call with my kids screaming in the background, crying, and him saying, when are you going to be home? Well, I like to dye my hair. I've done it since I was 14. I maybe get my hair cut once a year, like dyed and stuff. It takes hours, it takes like 4 hours at least. Like, depends on the process, depends on everything. So 3, 4 hours once a year. Couldn't do it. Stressed out the whole time I'm there, getting phone calls nonstop. When are you going to be back? Not a care in the world about how important that is for me to feel good and look good. Thank you. I'm so glad that I found love with someone who doesn't give a fuck about me. But I'm not complaining about him. I'm saying I allowed that for myself. I fucking allowed that. What does that say about me? That's kind of what hurts the most is like when I felt betrayed, like he's totally and he had no care in the world. Like when after the 2 month period that I was restricted from my kids, my house, my work, everything that I lived for and did at such a high level, at such a hard pace, going from 100 to zero. It created a spontaneous Kundalini awakening. It created psychic gifts coming online. It created my intuition
being so loud that I could no longer ignore it because my spirit was like, what the fuck? Get out of this, right? So that's my spirit screaming, and I couldn't ignore it anymore. I tried and tried and tried. I used excuses for years and years and years saying, well, I can't just leave. I can't just stop. I can't give up because there are so many people depending on me. Except that's wonderful. It's beautiful. That's a gift. That's who I am. That matters to me. I'm a very loyal, hardworking person. I care very much about my family. I'm very sentimental. I'm very emotional, but I'm also very powerful. Like, I'll fight for you. I'm one of those people who will fucking say something. I'll do something too. So I'm a good one. I feel like I'm a gift. But the hard thing about that is I can't expect that from other people. And when I looked around and I saw like my inner circle, my partner, the person that I chose in life to reflect back to me my worth and to help me succeed and how he was treating me, it made me feel so sad that I wasn't able to recognize sooner and how bent out of shape I had gotten. It has taken about 5 years to even out from that. It took 5 years to get divorced, by the way. And look at that. What a coincidence. It happened at the same time. Whew. And I'm not trying to trauma dump. What I'm trying to say is there is a tactic that men use through the legal system that is intentional to harm the mother of their children, their soon to be ex wife, in an effort to harm them. I mean, it's about money and it's about psychological abuse. That's what it's about. So, I personally have a very I personally have a very strong connection to this cause and to this issue and to the other parts of this topic. It's not even just about divorce or custody and a quote normal family. It's also this tactic is very, very prevalent in abusive people, people who abuse children as well. And the court system, the difficulty, the level of difficulty that women have had trying to protect their own children from their other parent that is abusing them. And if you look into Children of the Underground, it was a documentary about Faye Yeager. She not only experienced that herself with her husband and daughter, but then went on to remarry, and she created an underground railroad essentially for women and children to escape the abusive predator fathers who were backed up by the legal system. And it's like, well, you have to be with your dad. You have to go. And it's like, oh, I have to go with someone who's sexually abusing me. How what how that has happened to so many women and children. It just blows my mind. The law, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to me. I always thought that the law was here to help us. I always thought it was to help protect us. And like that's what they say. Like it's fucking not. Not in this case. Not in this case. And with the overwhelmed systems of children, youth, and families, and the corruption, to be honest, to be like absolutely fucking blatantly honest, the corruption, because there are predators that work within that system. And do you think that that's an accident? They have intentionally positioned themselves to be able to take advantage of children or to give people get out of jail free cards. Their little fucking circle jerk buddies, sickos. And not you. We're getting into a lot, but I'm just saying it exists. Uh, years ago, when I had my abrupt spiritual awakening that coincided with this extreme level of stress, which I think makes total sense. Like it could be argued psychologically as a psychological break. Um, or it could be a spiritual awakening. What the fuck is the difference? You tell me. I actually would love to hear that. I would love to hear from you. If you are someone who endured trauma or not and just had a spontaneous spiritual awakening without any knowledge of the spiritual realm, without any conscious knowledge of the workings of the spiritual realm, which is reality. I want to hear from you. Anyway, I hope you like my rambling. I like rambling to you. But again, this podcast is about my experience. And the only reason I want to share it is to bring awareness, to bring perspective, to open up the conversation because I don't think most people in America understand that someone really could just go to the courthouse and write a statement under oath and fucking lie and change your life. Boom. Really fuck you up. You wouldn't even believe that that is possible. There's because typically when you get arrested, aren't you presumed innocent until proven guilty, right? Like there's no evidence of stuff, right? And God forbid there really is like a claim, a cause of concern that other people have initiated as a cause for concern to initiate an investigation with children, youth, and families, for example. And then someone files a PFA the day after that investigation is opened. And then that same person now has full legal custody of the child in question. And they're refusing their child to have a forensic interview, which they have full right to do because they have full legal custody. The other parent can't do a single thing. And it's all because they got a PFA. Simple as that. I think we need some reforms up in here. Or I would say that the court system that files PFAs, where there is a process, a due process without due process. Like there is a legal execution without any legal proceeding. That comes later. So I feel like that's like, I mean, I understand that it's for emergency situations and they try their best to navigate what someone is saying. And they can't just say, this isn't true, and then watch that person gets killed, which has happened before. But what the fuck? I mean, sometimes things are obviously not not up to snuff, not a real claim. Like for example, in my case, the process typically for someone to get a PFA is go to the courthouse, and then there's an area inside of that called the Domestic Violence Center, and they have advocates who are attorneys who will help you file that PFA and represent you in court. Well, when they refuse to represent you, I would think that that would mean to the court or signal in some way to the court that this isn't necessarily legitimate because they represent everyone except for people they don't think deserve to have representation. I digress. I feel aggressive. I feel aggressive right now, and I hope I'm not coming off as aggressive. But these things should spark a little bit of outrage because they are used by people, and the people who are manipulating the system, they know this. This is their playbook. They're ready. They have the lawyers, they have the money, they have the plan, they just execute it. And there's nothing you can do to undo it except wait. And even when you wait, it could come out bad for you. Um, yeah. Or you could violate it and continuously get arrested. That's personally what I did. Might get into that in another another episode. But I don't regret it. I don't regret it one bit. I would actually do it again. My lawyers fucking hate me. My lawyers hate me, especially because I'm like, I don't really care and I would do it again. And I don't mean that to be disrespectful. I don't mean that to be reckless. I mean that genuinely because when the law is not doing what it should to protect a child, I will, even if that's breaking the law. If that causes me to break the law, I don't give a fuck about the law. How about that? I mean, I feel like that's understandable. I feel like we should be that way. I mean, what comes first, the law or being human? Being a human, protecting a child, I think that that is very important. And I feel like in many other cases, things have been understood because of extenuating circumstances, which in my case, I would agree. I received that as well. I was also graciously not punished very severely because it was pretty clear that I am not a problem and that I don't have a history of violence and no one else says anything bad about me. In fact, I have affidavits saying the opposite. They're saying, great things. So, it's difficult. It's difficult in the position of knowing the truth, but having to wait. I obviously had difficulty waiting and I was extremely patient, probably more than most, but at the same time, I did snap a few times. And I think it's understandable. Luckily, I was not punished very severely, like I said. But again, I would do it again. Any day of the week. Any day of the week, baby. Uh, let's move forward to more positive things, I want to say, because these things are what I'm sharing today. I really hope it's not like upsetting. I feel upset. Uh, maybe we need to be a little upset. Maybe we do. Maybe it's not a bad thing, especially in these times right now. I think it's a good thing to fuel our divine feminine, unfuckwithable dragon energy that we need to bring back to reclaim reality for humanity, true humanity to exist without interference of evil. And I think that's why we're here, friends. I'm really excited because I know that it's going to happen. We all are in this together, and we all need to play our part by remaining positive. So sometimes, despite, for example, this is a good example, despite going through really difficult things, like I just cited, and I'm just this is the tip of the iceberg, what I just let out, like verbal diarrhea, right, for the past, I don't know, 30 minutes. Tip of the iceberg. The process of becoming spiritual through this process was so necessary for me. And in that, I don't mean I found a new religion, I found something to follow, I found something to distract me, but the opposite, that I found within myself a higher degree of reflection of what is right and wrong, and to not just blindly follow what I'm told or what is said to be, because things are amiss. Things don't make sense. And it's not always for our protection, despite the opposite being told to us. So, in any event, I always appreciate taking time to breathe in all the way down to my root and connect in with the earth mother. Calm down. Calm the fuck down. Ground in and bring up like a straw some of that reassurance that we need to stand the fuck up and get going. Speaking of which, I'm going to do that. I'm going to get going. I'm going to go do some things right now. And I truly hope that I actually do share this episode without fear of retribution, because also along this process, I tried to share things online, for example, on social media. I even started a GoFundMe to try to get help financially to be able to fight all of these legal things. terrible. Like, just out here asking for money. But I needed it. So, and very thankfully, I was helped. And I was able to trade Akashic readings for people. Like, I offered a free Akashic reading by email after that. So it's not like I'm just trying to get get money. I needed it for a reason to be able to fight back. It's crazy how you're required. And you might say, oh, you could just get legal aid. Okay, well, didn't have access to any of my files, any of the things that I would have needed to be able to qualify for that. It also takes quite a bit of time. I urgently feel the need to make a change. And the only way to do that is to fucking slap some hundos, some thousands down, actually, in front of a lawyer and say, I need help. So that's what you do. Um, I'm really spastastic today. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna fucking go. But I hope you enjoyed this and it gave you a little bit of insight into my mania. And why I have become this way. I love myself so much and I wouldn't change a fucking thing. All right. Take care. I also wanted to share. This is my baby girl Kit Kat. So whenever you hear this little jingle jangle, you know it's her. Just so you know. She's a warrior princess. All right, all right, all right. Like I promised, my ADHD took me all over the place, and some of the things that I was talking about, I just straight up left behind. About 8 minutes, 30 minutes in, 8 minutes, 30 seconds in, I was talking about when I went to Sedona. What I was trying to describe was I had a nursery full in the garage. I had many, many different plants, food, uh, and flowers. And I had been nurturing them for months every day, lifting up the garage door, making sure they got enough sunlight, watering them, keeping them separate, giving them enough space and air circulation, you know, as a plant caregiver does. While I was away for 3 days, the garage got, quote, cleaned up. All of the plants were squished together. Uh, no light, lots of water. Guess what happened? They all died. I asked, so this is what I'm saying by things that like had to have been intentional because we were both landscapers. Um, one time when I moved back in, I had a lot of clothes on a rack. My nicest clothes were on a rack, and I made a room downstairs to have my own separate area. And eventually something happened, and my ex carried that clothing rack with all of the clothes on it directly up to the attic. And so all of my belongings are like scattered all over the place, and that type of thing causes dysregulation. I wanted to bring that up. And it's interesting because the second time he filed the PFA against me, I was at home like I normally was, and the state police came, served me with the PFA, the warrant saying that I had to be evicted from the house. And there were two police officers, one that I had become very familiar with because state police, they don't have that many officers. And in my area, we didn't have a township with a police department, so it was the state police, and it typically required more time for them to respond, and also the more you called them, the more frequently you saw the same people. That eventually helped me because that officer that I'm talking about made a statement on my behalf because she was able to see, because she responded so many times, she was able to see what was really going on, and she spoke up for me, so I appreciate that. But when she responded with her, I believe he was the supervisor of the troop, came to evict me, he was looking at my books on my bookshelf and he said, "Who's the beekeeper?" And I just started bawling, crying. And I was like, I am. I'm the keeper of all living things here, and everything is going to die. And he probably thought that I was being dramatic, but I was actually speaking from experience. And I was correct. I think all but 3 of the 12 chickens that I had died. And then that winter, the bees died. All of the plants were neglected and died. And for me, I take that very personally, very, very personally. And there's no justice for them. So I just wanted to load on more for you guys here at the tail end to really rub it in. I'm just kidding. No, I just wanted to express, there are a lot of things that I feel have been done that were really, really wrong. And it caused a lot of stress and strain, and death, destruction. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. And I promise myself that in the future, I'll never allow that to happen again to anything that I am in charge of or responsible for. So that is my commitment that I make to myself and all living things. And I trust that I'll be able to build an expansive, exquisite, self-sustaining, naturally responsible, full of reciprocity environment for myself, my kids, and anyone else that we welcome into our space. So have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time.